Hello, this is No Face Meal. I'm your host, Marjorie Haynes. Today, we're going to show 4 different methods of making coffee. For those who don't know, I am the head roaster for Pluto Coffee. With weather starting to get cooler, there's going to be more coffee drink. There's some people who drink coffee all the time, like we do. But there are 4 different major ways of making coffee, and a lot of people complain they can't make good coffee. Well, I'm here to let you know how to do this. Your first method, and about 90% of people that make coffee do this. They do drip. Pretty basic. Put your coffee in here, put your water in, and you're good to go. But the trick is this: if you use a filter with your coffee maker, you need to wet that filter. That will leach out any of the impurities that's in your filter, so you don't taste filter. I use one of these mesh baskets. I highly recommend you get one of these. It's reusable. You don't get that filter taste. I'm going to show you how to grind for your too much on my table. Let's take you up for a minute there. I'm going to show you, when you do drip, I suggest to most people that you grind a medium to fine. I prefer fine myself. Most people use pre-ground. I don't suggest it. Coffee's always better if you grind it yourself. So we're going to grind this too. And I'm not going to make a full pot of this. This is my blueberry decaf. We'll grind it to a fine medium. Okay, so we're going to grind this. And these are really inexpensive. I do have a professional grinder for when I in my shop or at the market, but these do a fairly good job. If you don't want to go to the expense, they're $20 or so. So you don't want this. I tend to grind a little bit finer. I feel that the finer the grind, the more oils you're going to be able to extract, and that's what you want. Is you want the coffee. Smells good. You want the coffee oils in it, because that's what makes coffee good. Is the oils that's in the coffee. Now this one happens to be a happens to be a flavored coffee. Now there are, let me talk a little bit about flavored coffees. There are good flavored coffees and there are not so good. You want to look for a flavored coffee from your roaster, because they put coffee first, flavor second, flavoring second. You want your flavored coffees to you want it to work with the flavor of the coffee, okay? We've all had those coffees that are, just in your face, chemical tasty, not a good coffee. So you really want, coffee flavor first, then you want your flavor. Another thing about flavored coffees, and I know a lot of people drink their coffee black, if you buy from a roaster, be advised that flavoring has no sweetness to it. It is unsweetened, which means you're gonna have to put a little sweetener in it to get the full effect. Commercial coffees, they put sweetener in their flavored coffees. I get that a lot from people. They say, is it sweet? Well, no, it's not sweet until you put a sweetener in it. And that's kind of what you want. because everybody's got a different sweetness level. Some people, like myself, I don't use a sweetener. I use stevia is what we use. Okay, so here's kind of a medium. A little bit more on the coarser side than I like, but again, that's probably what most people are used to. When you get to the French press, this is what you're looking for. I'm going to grind some more because I didn't get it quite as fine as I like it. So we'll save that for the French press. So we'll do some more grinding for I like my coffee just in the pot a little finer than that. Okay, hand me that other bowl, babe. The other bowl. Okay, now, this is the way I like mine. If you don't like it quite that fine, then you do a little less. What I do usually is I hold it down, count to 20 3 times for fine. If you get a really, really good grinder, like my professional one, it's got 12 different settings, so you can have anywhere from extra fine. But this is what most people see at when they open a bag of ground coffee. Like I said, I don't recommend that. You don't know what's in that coffee when it's ground. Plus, coffee is always best when it's fresh ground. It just is. And why go with okay coffee when you can have outstanding coffee every single day? So okay, I won't make this too dark because I do tend to, this is like 4 cups of water to 3.5 tablespoons, and we'll let that go. Now, our next coffee is old-fashioned perked. You can hear my little kettle's starting to boil, so that means saying step it up. So again, some people call this cowboy coffee, okay, because there'll be grinds in the end of it. I don't mind the grinds. Okay, so that's like 3 times. I counted. Now this is a full 12 pot, which we probably don't need that much, but Another thing, don't be afraid to put coffee in the in a pitcher and save it for the next day or for cold coffee, because this coffee this good is going to continue to be good. Okay. People go, oh, cold coffee, but that's what you drink in, when you go to these other places. Yeah. But some places use an instant coffee, which is just no. Now this is your perk, and if you see, I've already wetted the filter to get any of that taste out. So we're going to measure out our coffee. Now I go with 1 tablespoon for 2 cups. Again, you want this to be it kind of depends on your taste. If I was making this for my morning coffee, we would be doing about 8 of those because I like mine very strong. Okay. Now, we need to time this. For a 12 pot like this, you want it to go about 23 minutes. And then it's 15 minutes to perk. Okay? I know that sounds kind of, but I got it all figured out, and you know, I can get my chores done and all that good stuff. Now, French press. Hand me the cup, babe, please. People are kind of scared of French press. They're like, oh my God, it's too fancy. Oh, no. It really is not that fancy. Here's what you do. Now, this is already a medium to coarse. So we don't leave it. You want to make sure this is a medium to coarse, because if you don't, you're going to get all those powder goes stuck in your filter there, and you're not going to get the full expressed. Okay? So you're going to measure out your coffee. Yeah, it's about 5. And then you're going to take your hot water and you're going to wet these grounds. You're going to fill this up, and you're going to fill it up. So that's all the water I got right now. That'll have to do. Usually I fill it all the way up for 12 cups, and I did today. Then you want to put this in, and you're going to let that set for 4 minutes. Okay? 4 minutes. So while that is doing its thing, see, that's all there is to it. I mean, I'll show you how to plunge it, and then it'll be coffee time. Now, what is best? Well, it depends on what you're doing. Best coffee. We like pour over. We think it is the best coffee for us. Some people are like, that's a lot of work, and I just want to set my machine and do it and go. And that's fine. That's why we have drip. But if you use quality coffee, quality ingredients, you're gonna have a quality brew every single time, whatever method you choose. Okay? I'm not gonna make a whole lot of pour over. I highly recommend that you use your water to be the best you can get. Distill is awesome. Spring is good. Filter is good. Usually we do filter. Just don't do straight from the tap. There's just way too much stuff going on with that. So we'll put that over here. Are you counting the minutes over there? So, all we have left to do is pour over. Okay, so we'll grind for pour over. Pour over should be a fine grind. Okay, as fine as you can get it. And that's because you are literally going to pour it over. This is my carafe, as you can tell, used recently. And this is the filter. This is the kind I really suggest you get. One with the metal filter and one with a glass bowl. Because you can actually see your water level better. And there's no paper filter for this. You don't need it because it's a very, very fine mesh. And that's what you want. Okay. We just have a little coffee left. So we'll make a little bit of pour over. Now, pour over, I think you get a strong brew with it. Believe it or not, I have actually gotten a brew that's like, ooh, that's a little bit too. I've had too strong, and I've had to go ahead and put a little water in it. Better to have strong than weak, because you know, strong you can put a little water in it, but weak, there ain't nothing you can do with that. You can't make that coffee any better. So your water level matters. Okay. We're gonna grind this fine. We're gonna wait for our little guy to get hot. Now, a lot of people, you've seen me tap this, and the reason why I do is because it's such fresh coffee that it'll get stuck like a little cake in the bottom of this. So when you tap it, it kind of helps loosen that up a little bit. So that's how you can tell that your coffee is, you know, is your coffee really fresh? It is if it sticks to the bottom. All right. Here we go. These are really good little grinders. And, you know, like I said, they cost, you know, right around 20 bucks. See, it's stuck in there. That means it's fresh. It will grind, and they're good. And there's little hand grinders you can get, and that's cool. But that is a little more work to it. I have a professional grinder that it's a conical burr, and it has 12 different grind settings on it, which is really cool. This has probably been 4 minutes, so I'm going to show you. That out of your way. It smells really good in here. See, then you want to take the plunger. And you want to make sure that the little lip that's on your plunger is here. Okay, otherwise you'll have coffee everywhere. Believe me, done it. Not what you want. Okay, so you're going to slowly push this down. The slower you do it, the more, do you see the creamer coming up? That's the oils I was talking about. So you really can't get in a hurry with this. You slowly want to plunge it so you extract all of that good oil that makes good coffee so good. I am passionate about coffee. Okay. And there you go. That's all there is to it. Now all your coffee grounds are down here, and all your good coffee is here. Of course, that's not dark enough for me, but it's probably dark enough for everybody else. Give me a couple cups, and I'll pour this one out. So, probably could have just went ahead and added a little more coffee to that, but it will not be a weak brew. So, let's talk about the methods that we're using. Okay, so a good coffee maker, this one is actually from the big box store, and it's probably like 20 bucks. Don't use it for coffee, but once in a blue moon when I have a lot of people over, makes a good cup of coffee. Makes it pretty much hands-free. You just put it in there and it goes, and you get a good product. Your perk, which is still, we're still waiting on to perk. It does take a long time, and this is a method that, you know, your mother or your grandmother used to do, and it's beginning to have more of a revival. Again, after you put the water in it, you know, and you put the grinds in it, it's pretty much, you know, you set it and you're done, you know. But as you can, and percolators range anywhere from $25 and up, depending on how big they are. Make sure you always get stainless steel. Always get the knob, the glass knob, not a plastic knob, because it will melt. We've had that before. You know, get it from pretty much any of your big box stores. Believe it or not, you know, people are most afraid of French press and pour over, and these are fairly inexpensive. We got ours on sale at one of the big grocery stores. If you look, you'll find pretty much a deal. You can go really fancy with these, and that's fine, but the method is the same. So, you know, these start at maybe $30 and up, depending on the size, and the same with pour overs, 30 and up. It just all depends. I mean, people have had fancy espresso machines and all that good stuff, and that's all good, you know, but it doesn't have to cost that much. So now we're going to switch it around and see. This has got, yeah, I don't know if you can see that or not. It's got a vented lid. It'll strain out anything that happened to escape. Usually there's nothing to do there. Okay, and you see all this on top? That's that good crema. That's what gives your coffee all that good flavor. Okay, now if you look over here to this coffee pot, which is your drip, you don't see very much of it because of the extraction. Still gonna be a good cup of coffee, but you get more of the crema here, okay? And that's kind of what most people who drink coffee would like. Now, this is probably strong enough for some people, but it probably is not strong enough for me. But that's okay, because, oh, I don't know. That is the French press. Okay. I said, yeah, maybe a little weak for me, but for a lot of people it won't be. I happen to like really strong coffee. Thanks, Mom. She's the one who started this. Now this is just your regular drip. Okay, so there's your drip. There's your French press. We're still waiting on the perk because it takes a long time. It takes, like I said, 23 minutes for the water to boil, plus 15 to perk it. So, you know, we'll probably have to cut away and come back to that. Waiting on my little kettle to come along and do its thing. There, I'll get it right. Okay, so this, okay, we're only going to do about 4 cups in there whenever it gets hot. Let's talk kinds of coffee, okay? A lot of people, as you can tell from the drip, you see there's like a ruby red undertone in the pot. This is Colombian. It's flavored Colombian, and that's what most people get at the store when you buy your name brands. It's Colombian. Very I don't want to say flavor neutral, but it's very easy to flavor these particular beans. And that's why most people flavor Colombian, because they take the flavor really good. It also has, it's what you grew up with, you know, it's what your mom and Dad used to drink. Compared to other coffees that I have, this one, they said, well, people want to say, well, what is your darkest roast? When most people talk about dark roast, they talk strength. Okay, so the roast doesn't have anything to do with the strength. When you have a dark roast coffee, you actually no longer taste the coffee, you're tasting just the roast. Okay, because it's that dark. Same thing with your, even darker coffees like your Italian or French roast. You're not really tasting the coffee anymore. You're just tasting the roast. I find most people who say they like dark coffee, they're referring to strength. Okay, strength depends on how much you put in your pots. Okay, if you like a really strong cup of coffee, then you want to put more in. You're going to have to figure out what's good for you. Personally, I do things like I'll have like 2 ounces of coffee to a big pot, because I use 8 or 9 tablespoons because I like it really dark. You have to kind of play with that and figure out, because fresh roasted, which is what I do, is totally different than commercial coffees. It just is. When I roast small batches, and nothing in my shop is much over a week old. I always roast what is needed. It's almost always a full roast of everything that I carry. I don't mass produce. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. I don't roast 40, 50, 60 pounds of one kind of coffee and then let it set. I don't do that. Perfectly fine to do that. I just like the fresh beans, and I find most of my customers do too. With that being said, Colombian, like I said, is going to be a medium to heavy body, which is taste in your mouth. It's going to have a little bit of that bite that a lot of my dark, coffee drinkers love. And it's going to have like undertones of dark chocolate. People say, "Oh, I never tasted undertone." Well, maybe it's probably because it's your method of coffee. How you do your coffee. You should be able to distinguish those after tones to it. The next step up, as far as people who like dark coffee, would be your Costa Rican coffee. Costa Rican coffee, it doesn't have that bite that this will, and it has more of a milk chocolate after tone to it. Another coffee that we really love is, and we carry, is the Kenyan AA. Kenyan AA comes from Kenya, and it has been on the top 20 list for the last 20-30 years. Very good coffee. I really suggest it for my people who have like an acidity problem. They have the acid reflux, because it's just really smooth. Turn the wrong one off. Can't tell when I got them both on which one is what. I also roast a Sumatra, and Sumatra is a totally different beast. It's got a lighter body, and it's got like an herbally taste to it. I find that either you like it or you don't. I like it once in a while. It's not my main coffee. The only coffee I flavor will be the Colombian, because the others really don't need flavoring in it. I get asked a lot about caffeine ratios. I roast all my coffees about the same darkness, so it's about the same caffeine level. I do custom roast. I have done light roast before for people. Light roast, believe it or not, will always have more caffeine than any other roast. You think, you know, most people, oh, I thought it would be dark roast. No. When you're roasting beans, the green beans have the most caffeine ever, okay? But you can't drink the green beans. You just can't. It won't make coffee. So, if you do a light roast to it, that's going to have more of the caffeine. The longer you roast it, the less caffeine it'll have. Because what you're doing is basically dehydrating the bean. So I get that question quite often. I could probably do 3 hours on coffee because it is a passion of mine. There's nothing better than a pot of coffee. Now, I think our water is done now. Turn that off, and you're gonna, when you do your water, you want to wait like 30 seconds or so. So while your coffee, you know, you could do your grinding. Is what I normally do. And this is the neatest. Method, because it's just a really cool visual. It also happens to be our favorite coffee, and it may be a little bit much, but you know what, even if you do pour over, you know, on a Sunday or Saturday mornings when you have a little more time to enjoy it, then that's fine. So what you need, you want to make sure you get a gooseneck kettle, okay? These come in a variety of sizes, and these are good for your teas too, you know. We do make those. So I've got my coffee in, and you want to wet the grounds, okay, in the middle. Look at this. And then in a circular motion, you're going to pour that over. I want to get this high enough so we can get a shot of the top of that. Do you see all that nice thick crema that's in there? That's going to be in your coffee. And this is why I prefer this method. Doesn't take a long time, really. You got to boil water, but like I said, this is probably going to be a little bit lighter brew than I normally do, because I do like mine very dark. When I make coffee for the market or for the shop, I have to kind of pull back and say, well, I better do a little bit less because not everybody likes it as strong as I like it. And don't be afraid of decafs. Honestly, you have fresh roasted decaf, you're not going to notice that the caffeine is gone. You don't notice the taste. You know, don't be fooled with, you know, I know some commercial coffees are kind of like, it's decaf. You know, decafs are really, really good for things like evening, you know, when you don't want to be kept up late. They make really good iced coffees if you want to put this in the refrigerator. It's really nice. So don't discount decaf coffee. And believe it or not, because of the method of extracting that caffeine, you're going to pay more for decaf. I know there's a lot of people that have to have it. You know, like, oh, I wouldn't drink coffee if I had to have decaf. Well, you haven't had this. When the shop's open, come over to the shop. We'll make some decaf. You know, and I'll prove it to you. Usually I carry 2 or 3 different kinds of decaf because everybody got to have their own coffee. And that's all there is to pour over. Literally, that's it. You put your coffee in, you grind it, put it in, put your hot water in, you get your coffee. But you know, and it's really not that big of a mess. I'm only making about half a pot of this because, and we'll be drinking it all day. Now we're still waiting for this to decide it's gonna do what it gotta do. So we'll probably have to come back to it. This is off. But now we'll pour you out a cup of this. You can wait for this to go ahead and get done dripping. Or you could do what I do and transfer it to another cup. I'll pour you out a cup of this. There's your pour over. So we'll probably have to come back and I'll show you the perk. But there's your pour over, which is a method I prefer. It all depends on how fast how you need it and your particular taste. I know people who love French press. I know people who prefer perked over your drip. But I mean, whatever method you choose, just start with good fresh beans, freshly ground, and your good water, and you'll have a really good cup of coffee. So here we have our perk coffee, and it's starting to perk. Now we'll let this perk for 15 minutes. I find that 15 minutes is just right for us as far as extracting as many of the coffee oils. It is a longer method, but it is a kind of a, just set it on the stove. Or there's also electric ones that you can get, and set your timer, and it'll be ready when you're ready for it. And in my opinion, it does make a better cup of coffee than drip. I prefer it over drip, and quite frankly, I prefer pour over to all of it. So it all really depends on your preference. And I have customers that swear by French press, and like, it's good. I just prefer pour over. To me, pour over gets more of the coffee oils, and it has a richer taste. But there are people who don't like pour over for that reason. It's too rich. There is such a thing as sometimes things are just too rich, and they feel that it's too rich for them. So that's why they prefer French press. Convenience-wise, yes, it is more convenient to do either drip or perk. Because it's one of those you set them and you kind of forget about it. You time them, you can go do something else. Where your French press and your pour over is more hands-on. But really, as long as you have fresh roasted beans, freshly ground, and your good water, you're going to have a good cup of coffee. We'll pour a cup of this out whenever 15 minutes is over. We'll be back then. Okay, now we're back. Our coffee is perked, as you saw. I'm going to, usually this is very hot, so usually you need a holder. Make sure a handle is not so hot, but it's the glass that's a little bit warm, hot, and you need to hold this when you pour it. Otherwise, it's going to be all over, and you don't want it to be all over. So make sure you have a couple of towels or oven mitts or pot holders. There we go. Got a couple of shop towels. So this is perked. Now you want to make sure, I want to stress this, when you do perked, you have to have this timed. There is such a thing as a coffee being over perked, and that's why a lot of people have bad things to say about perked coffee. Well, number one, there'll be grounds in it. There just will be. It's like people call it camping coffee. You leave the last fourth of an inch to half an inch of your coffee in your cup. But there's been way too many people who do perk that they over perk and it becomes bitter. Good coffee should never be bitter. So 12 cups, you want to do 23 minutes for it to boil and start to perk, and then 15 minutes perking. Now if you have a smaller one, you'll have to adjust that time down. You also should have it on this one on a medium, and a smaller one probably on not next notch down between medium and low. Okay, let's pour this out. There it is. Yeah, it's a little bit weaker than I drink it, but it still is good coffee. And there's your Perked. 4 different ways to do coffee. Each one is a great way of doing it. It just depends on how you prefer to do your coffee. And it depends on your time. You know, if it's a work day week and you don't have time maybe to boil water and then do a pour over or French press, that's fine. Percolated or drip is good. But if you have time, I really encourage you to try French press and pour over, especially pour over because it's my favorite cup of coffee. So that's all we have, the time we have for this segment of No Face Meals, and I'm your host, Marjorie Haynes. No Face Meals, where the food and the coffee are the stars.